Hey guys, Lindsay Lumpkin here. I'm going to actually start with asking you to kind of ponder what kind of feedback is necessary. I'd really like to get feedback on basically the entire reform situation in regards to an alternative certification program that's in-house called the Odessa Pathway to Teaching. I also want to know if you think that the stakeholders are appropriate, that my primary and secondary problems are also appropriate to the piece overall, in terms of funding, in terms of supports, in terms of internal structures, tightly coupled systems, those sort of things. Also, if the actions are appropriate, the action solutions are appropriate, and especially the evaluation of the solutions. So really these two slides are I guess my last three slides for primary and secondary action solutions and evaluation solutions. So let's start at the beginning. This is the Odessa Pathway to Teaching for Ector County Independent School District. It's an alternative certification program built from inside the district. The summary of the reform situation is in the reform description. We've entered into a first-year partner agreement with the new teacher program, or TNTP. Basically, it's a grant, and they are the grantors that have created a district alternative certification program. It aims to achieve retention rates, district-wide alternative cert program to meet the district's needs. It's a tailored fit. Basically, it allows autonomy for training, allows the district to look at different curricula and implementation of the program, so that we have a solid surface that we're working with, a solid foundation that we're working with to implement this for longevity purposes. The reform history is that we've had issues with the teacher attrition, we've had ill-prepared teachers entering the profession, and student achievement has been negatively impacted. Research indicates that teacher preparatory programs are not preparing teachers, which is causing a broader class issue in terms of teachers don't know how to differentiate. They don't know how to utilize technology, and they have a lack of tightly focused lessons simply because they were never taught to, lesson plan properly. Significant increases in attrition rates have also affected us negatively, and the professional development, student training, coaching, mentoring, classroom management, instructional techniques are all part of this piece to help reform go smoothly. In the past, we haven't had those that have been offered to the district simply because of money and possibly geographical locations. We just don't have the same or can't afford the same opportunities as larger districts like in the Houston and Dallas area. The reform impact is fear of retaining quality teachers. It's a definite fear. The extension of the program is new to teachers in the new teachers coaching project. That's awesome because teachers who are new to the profession or new to the district get a coach for at least 2 years, especially those who are brand new to the profession. So it's an in-house built-in support system, which is an extension of this alternative certification program. Increased awareness, obviously, of specific deficiencies within the district, and they're seeking trends in the data to make better improvements, which data hasn't really informed our decision-making in the past. And in reform of context and the environment, we live in oil country. The cost of living is not cheap. And geographically speaking, we aren't in a metropolitan area, so people don't want to just flock because there's not a lot to do. You have to drive several hours to get somewhere. There's no water. And then the second piece is the ebb and flow of the oil field. Basically, the booms and the busts of our economy affect us greatly. And then positives are that teacher and administrator pay increased, and that the Odessa Pathways to Teaching created quality training and professional opportunities, or at least that's our hope for sustainability. I don't know what happened to this slide, but something in the formatting is wonky. So this is stakeholders. They're critical to the sustainability. Obviously, if you look at the graph, you can see who has high interest and who has low power or high power. TNTP, or they were the grantors, they funded the ECISD program. They have very high interest in high power, especially since it's been modeled after their own program. Professional development and curriculum department, they have high interest in some power. They don't hold the purse strings, so there are some things that they have to work within. That's the slight caveat within what TNTP asks. Principals have high interest because they are impacting their campuses, and they have some power and some say, but probably some push from the the TNTP group and professional development curriculum department are going to drive those changes. Alt certification teachers have a high interest in low power. Obviously, they want to do this, or they wouldn't be seeking an alternative certification process. And mentors and coaches want to do this because they want to see other teachers become successful. They've been asked to be a part of something really great. So, so that's part of those stakeholders being part of the larger picture. So as we move through to primary and secondary problems, primary problems on a more global view is that ESSA and T-TEST have created some unique variables within different districts, but certainly unique to ECISD. States have the autonomy now to pick and choose different portions or pieces of the evaluation process within T-TEST. It leaves out those collaborative pieces of that feedback piece that new teachers or alternative certification teachers might actually receive with ESSA. And so there are certain pieces within our own T-TEST evaluation system in ECISD that are left out that are really dynamically driven to make people better, to make them more observant, to make them more self-reflective and better in the classroom. Good questioning techniques, things that they can ponder to hopefully make them better instructionally and just better people overall for the student's sake. However, if you pick and choose those pieces, then you lose some of that. You lose some of those foundational pieces that should have already been in place and were meant to impact great, on a greater level, and they've just disappeared or they're non-existent. TNTP again holds the money. They have stake in the process and the implementation. It's modeled after their piece. So they've come in and done trainings and walked side by side ECISD as they've implemented this process and this program. It places ECISD in a slight precarious situation because it could be short-lived if they're not handling things correctly, which is honestly, we roll out something and reform and we want change, but we never ever properly implement change. And it's been a habitual issue within the district for years. It's no secret. The secondary issues are manpower. Manpower is needed for this program to be successful and to have longevity and sustainability. If it's not run well, teacher attrition may be an issue. 40 to 50% of all teachers are likely to leave within the first 5 years of teaching. That's what the statistics tell us. And with 51% of our teachers being alternatively certified in the state of Texas from TEA's data reports, that's huge. That's a big deal. We don't want to run that risk of not retaining teachers in our district. And the other secondary problem is that we have high classroom demands within different things. Our evaluation systems, although good, still have high demands. If we don't prepare people well, they don't know how to meet those demands. The second thing is it has increased exhaustion to the point that people don't want to necessarily be a part of this profession any longer. And that's difficult. Good teachers are leaving us frequently. So we have action solutions. And basically, these action solutions are that ECISD's established a need for an alternative certification program with a tightly coupled training program and built-in supports. The training piece, Darlene Hammond purports that the more training, obviously, someone receives before stepping into a classroom, the more positively they can impact students. That sounds like common sense. However, we always view things differently, and so some people's view of what proper training looks like varies. And so we want to make sure that we are leaving an impact and training well so that teachers are not ill-equipped as they step into those classrooms. So they built in a mentoring piece. They have a commitment to supporting teachers, new teachers to the district, and they're hopeful for retention. So the alternative certification programs in the past have often gotten or received a negative connotation. They had fewer expectations, they were inadequate training processes or had inadequate training processes, and they were teachers were ill-equipped for classrooms. That created a problem, which then leads us into this partnership with outside entities and institutes of higher education. Before, you would partner with them, but they weren't preparing teachers. And so why is there a partnership? If you're asking for great teachers to come in, prepared to come into classes, there's alternative certification programs should be top notch, but they just weren't delivering. So that's prior to this, there was an upsurge in teachers while simultaneously generating future complications and attrition rates. And so as I read A Revolution in One Classroom, the case of Mrs. Oblier by Cohen, I discovered that, she may not have been alternatively certified, but I was listening to this and I was like, oh my goodness, that sounds very familiar. It described the struggles that the teacher faced when not being well prepared and not having those supports in place for instructional practices. Cohen starts talking about that if teachers do not know it and are unable to teach it, then students will not learn it, which is very true. And Carol Dweck talks about growth mindset. And so within this program, growth mindset is working within a tightly coupled system for success of the implementation and application piece of the program. The grant offers a solution to empty classrooms. It's an investment for the precision of the implementation and the monitoring piece. And then mentoring and coaching relationships are crucial. It says that relationships stimulate self-reflection, and improves instructional practices. And that's for any of us. But building those relationships is crucial to those teachers having someone to bounce ideas off of. And then challenges faced today were not challenges of previous generations. Current education programs are not preparing current and future teachers for what these new realities are. And these new realities are, we don't even know what the jobs are going to look like for the future. And so we're trying to prepare for what we don't often know what we're doing yet, but these are new realities. And when we're talking in terms of students and impacting students, we went from not educating all students to now educating all students to achieve highest in learning outcomes. And so if we don't prepare teachers within these programs, we aren't going to see, we're going to see more low performance, and we're going to see probably higher dropout rates and other pieces. We have to build in these supports, and within those supports, we need to be supportive of those teachers to help guide them and teach them, through all of these processes. So the evaluation of solutions is to help gauge progress. There are multiple forms of stakeholders that were influential. We did a needs assessment to help figure out the needs. We are adding value to the classroom by co-designing this program with TNTP. And we have complex needs, and they're going to help us meet those. And then ECISD is desperately trying to rise above the status quo. All stakeholders have a direct impact on the success of the program, monitoring progress, setting goals, and analyzing data to come back together to maybe have to do another iteration because something didn't work. So we're going to make it better this time. But everybody has a direct impact. And then obviously collaboration is the driving force for retaining those teachers. So supporting trainings, stability, knowledge of curriculum, and invoking pride in the career. So here are my references, and I thank you very much for listening to my presentation today. Please submit feedback as you feel needed, And thanks again, and have a great one. Bye.